knife in the animal's haunch. There was loud laughter, the sudden rushing of hoofs, yells and curses as they came after him, but no shots. For a moment Lambert hoped that they were to content themselves with the tortures already inflicted and let him go, to find his way out to help or perish in his bonds, as it might fall. For a moment only this hope. They came pressing after him, heading his horse directly toward the fire. He struggled to bring pressure to old Whetstone's ribs in the signal that he had answered 1,000 times, but he was bound so rigidly that his muscles only twitched on the bone. Whetstone galloped on, mad in the pain of his wound, heading straight for the fire. Lambert believed, as those who urged him on towards it believed, that no horseman ever rode could jump that fiery gorge. On the brink of it his pursuers would stop, while he, powerless to check or turn his horse, would plunge over to perish in his bonds, smothered under his struggling beast, pierced by the transcendent agonies of fire. This was the last thought that rose coherently out of the turmoil of his senses. As the fire-pit opened before his eyes, he heard his horse squeal again in the pain of another knife thrust to madden it to its destructive leap. Then, in a swirl of the confused senses as of released waters, the lift of his horse as it sprang, the heat of the fire in his face. The healthy human mind recoils from death, and there is no agency among the destructive forces of nature which threatens with so much terror as fire. The senses disband in panic before it. Reason flees. The voice appeals in its distress with a note that vibrates horror. In the threat of death by fire, man descends to his primal levels. His tongue speaks again the universal language, its note lending its horrified thrill to the lowest thing that moves by the divine force of life. As Lambert hung over the fire in that mighty leap, his soul recoiled, his strength rushed into one great cry which still tore at his throat as his horse struck, racking him with a force that seemed to tear him from joint to joint. The shock of his landing gathered his dispersed faculties. There was fire around him, there was smoke in his nostrils, but he was alive. His horse was on its feet, struggling to scramble up the bank on which it had landed, the earth breaking under its hinder hoofs, threatening to precipitate it back into the fire that its tremendous leap had cleared. End of chapter 15.